next question goes to Simon Ateba from Today's News Africa. Simon, please unmute yourself.
Thank you for taking my question and Happy New Year. This is Simon Ateba with Today News Africa in Washington. Last week, Dr. Tedros talked about the catastrophic humanitarian situation in Tigray and elsewhere in Ethiopia. On Monday, President Biden spoke by phone with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed at the same time that the government there was bombing women and children in Tigray. I was just wondering if you could give us an update, especially since more bombs are dropping in Tigray. Does the WHO have access? Is there any other way that you can reach the people suffering there, dying? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon. And we'll go to
I can
Dr.
begin. Tedros may supplement. I think Dr. Tedros' statement at the last press conference was very clear. The situation hasn't changed since then. If anything, the situation has got worse. So the simple answer to your question, Simon, and Happy New Year to you, is no. Our access has not improved. And quite frankly, it's very upsetting here because we look at these numbers and we look at all of this, but we've had contact from doctors working in Tigray, doctors working with patients with diabetes and other diseases. And when you hear personal reports of the fact that we haven't been able to get basic insulin and diabetic treatments into Tigray since last summer, the end of last summer, that at one point insulin is almost stocked out, entirely stocked out. The oral anti-diabetic drugs are almost unavailable. They're running out of IV fluids for managing diabetic ketoacidosis. The doctors and nurses in northern Ethiopia and Tigray can't even manage the most severe complications of a disease like diabetes, which has catastrophic, immediate health consequences for people. It's incredible as a physician, as someone who commits their lives to caring for others. The politics of it are beyond me. The issue is that there are people, real, people living in a situation, whatever the cause of that situation, who have no access to the very basic life-saving interventions that we in the West, that we sitting here in Geneva would expect immediately, instantly, if we were to fall ill or sick. And from my perspective, this is an insult to our humanity to allow a situation like this to continue, to allow no access, zero access. Dr. Tedros said in his speech at the last press conference that access is the lifeblood, the starting point for humanitarian intervention. And we simply do not have that access. Access for our staff, access to the field, getting basic medical supplies in there. So it's truly important that all parties involved in this find a solution to allow humanitarian workers, doctors and nurses, to do their job, which is to treat patients and save lives. And simply, again, Simon, to be very clear, no, the situation is not getting any better since Dr. Tedros spoke before. It's getting worse.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you also, Simon, for that very important question. As Mike said, the situation hasn't improved. It's actually getting more complicated and deteriorating. We just received, by the way, a letter from a physician, which we don't know, earlier today. And maybe I would like to read part of what he said in that message. I'm very sure that you have been following up the terrible and unimaginable stories of patients in Tigray that have been broadcast in the media. As to diabetes management, we have not received any medication after June 2021. We have so far been using the stock we had before, and starting from September, we have started using expired anti-diabetic drugs, And our treatment has recently focused on preventing acute complications. We have stopped being concerned about good glycemic control and preventing chronic complications. We almost do not discuss about diet with patients as they have to eat whatever is available. From the report we got from our pharmacy head, we have learned that we're left with 150 vials of NPH and few strips of glipanclamide and other drugs, of course, which he mentions. And he says the sad part is we have run out of the expired drugs. The expired drugs are also finished. With the limited amount of drugs that we have, we will be able to serve for only 2 to 3 days, the next 2 to 3 days. These are the expired, actually. And to make things worse, we have run out of IV fluid, so we're treating even moderate and severe DKA with free water. No IV fluid, so free water. Anyway, it goes on and on and on. I think I don't want to take your time reading all the message, but you can see from this physician how desperate the situation is. Imagine, because you don't have IV fluid and you're using tap water. I have said it before, Tigray, the region, which is a region, Tigray regional state in Ethiopia, with a population of 7 million people. Its population is, by the way, almost equivalent to Norway and Estonia combined. And this region has been under siege for more than a year. Imagine a complete blockade of 7 million people for more than a year, and there is no food, there is no medication, no medicine, no electricity, no telecom, no media, nobody can report. And when there is no telephone, I think accessing families is difficult. No cash, no bank service. And imagine the impact of all this on health. Lack of medicine has direct impact and people are dying. But lack of food also kills. And on top of that, daily drone attacks is killing people. I think 3 days ago, more than 50 were killed, civilians, including children. And yesterday, more than 17 were killed. This is a daily event. And people are living under constant fear. And you can imagine how that impacts also the health of people, mental health. And when drugs are not available, having all these wounded civilians, you can imagine where they can get the support or treatment they can. From our side, we have been trying, from WHO side, trying to have access to send drugs to Tigray and the other affected areas by the conflict, Afar and Amhara regions. We were permitted to send medicines to Afar region and Amhara region, while we were not allowed to send to Tigray region. We have approached the Prime Minister's office, we have approached the Foreign Ministry, we have approached all relevant sectors, but no permission. So there is a blatant measure which has been taken, that's blockade and siege for more than a year, 7 million people, and since especially July, no medication was allowed from WHO, none whatsoever. One thing we know is measles vaccines from UNICEF a few weeks ago, but I don't think measles vaccines would do anything. That's why I said last week in our presser, this has to stop. Humanitarian access, even in conflict, is the basis, the basics. Even in Syria, we have access, even during the worst of conflicts in Syria. In Yemen, the same, we have access. We deliver medicines. Here, it's a complete blockade, especially since mid-July, nothing. This is 6 months without medical support, without food, without all the rest of the things I have said. It's impossible. Of course, I'm from that region. I'm from Tigray, northern part of Ethiopia. But I'm saying this without any bias. What I'm saying is the truth. What I'm saying is what's happening. What I'm saying is the situation is serious. Nowhere in the world you would find a crisis like what you see in the northern part of Ethiopia, especially in Tigray. None. No, nowhere in the world are we witnessing hell like in Tigray. And the international community has to do everything. The basics is to have unfettered access, whether it's food or medicine. Humanitarian access should be allowed at all times, even during conflict. Even conflict cannot be an excuse, because we're delivering medicine in conflict areas while the conflict is raging. So that place cannot be different. And then the other part, of course, this thing should be resolved politically, peacefully. If there is a commitment to resolve it peacefully, there is a way. There is a way to resolve it peacefully and politically. And we know that just respecting the constitutional order, the Constitution, would bring this problem into a peaceful conclusion. And the most courageous choose peace. So ultimately, it's a political solution or peace, which is the answer. But as I speak now, we're deeply concerned from WHO side. We have tried all our best, but we're blocked from sending medicines to Tigray, Ethiopia. And that's so dreadful and unimaginable during this time, 21st century, when a government is denying its own people for more than a year food and medicine and the rest to survive. I thank you, and Christian, back to you.